Hello and welcome to another week of Talk of the Town. The Port Adelaide Premiership champion. Hello, Warren Tredrea.
How are you? And I'm so happy that everyone else is ripping what we say on this chat and they're using it for their own bloody clickbait. Don't you worry about that. They've got some stuff coming today.
I did see that. A couple of people picking up Talk of the Town, which is why it is the most downloaded digital AFL show there is, bar none. And the chief football reporter for the Nine Network is Sam McClure.
Yes, hello everyone. I didn't really expect to have some calls from the AFL and from Richmond in the last 7 days after what I said last week, but here we are.
I enjoyed it. You were just getting in before the block starts on the Nine Network, talking carpentry and how to change an apartment. Now, guys, we've had a little bit of feedback coming from the audience.
Okay.
And if I can play footy coach for a second, the feedback has been our first quarters need to be sharpened up. We need to have a hotter start. Yeah, that's the feedback. We finished strong.
Is it valid feedback? Do we rate these people who are giving this feedback, or are these just online parasites who want to get into the players, want to get into us as well?
Bit of column A, bit of column B, I think is the honest answer, Trent. But I have come up with the answer.
All right.
And here's Seb's speedy segment, or as I like to call it, Triple S. And what it is 60 seconds of hard fire questions that you two have to answer. So let's do this. Put up the countdown clock. We're going to start with you, Sam McClure. 60 seconds is on the clock, starting now. Sammy, true or false, Richmond are the only realistic Victorian chance of winning a premiership?
False.
False. Who else is
Who else?
Pies. Pies can win it.
Pies can win it. All right, start the clock again. Treaders, the Brownlows should be held on the first Monday after the home and away season starts. True or false? Finishes.
True.
Sorry.
True. And in South Australia.
In South Australia. Hang on, stop the clock again. Stop the clock.
Because we got the grand final as well, haven't we?
No.
And the finals? Oh, you haven't got that info yet. Sorry about that.
The Brownlow in South Australia, the Glenelg Footy Club.
Treaders, the information that comes from South Australia usually takes a good sort of 7 to 10 days to get to the rest of the mainland. So just
that's why I'm giving it to you ahead of time. You could have the Adelaide Oval. You could have the new renovated convention centre, which is a drop punt, probably about 8 of your drop punts, Sam and Seb, to the Adelaide Oval. But I would suggest that it's already locked and loaded. Don't you know about that?
And restart the clock. Sam, Tom Hawkins gets the appropriate amount of recognition. True or false?
False. I think he doesn't get the recognition that he should, although his recent habits with the tribunal, particularly when he missed in a preliminary final, has probably swayed it the other way. But no, he's a better player than people think he is.
Treaders, finish this sentence. Lyndon Dunn's mullet is?
Perfect.
Sam, Charlie Dixon is
anything would be perfect to put on your bare scalp.
That was my question. Go away, redhead.
Hey, I'm going to get this out. Even though the timer is finished, Sam, as we go to the end, finish this segment. Charlie Dixon is the most influential power forward at Port Adelaide since?
Warren Tredrea.
Well, hang on, which means I probably should ask Treaders too. Treaders, Charlie Dixon is the most influential power forward at Port Adelaide since?
Jay Schultz.
Oh! I thought he was going to do a Wayne Carey for sure.
He said power forward.
Oh, no. Well, I had your Treaders for what it's worth. Let's get started on this. What do you think, guys? How did go?
Very well. Just get a bit more punchy, a bit more deliver. We can improve that.
I preferred Dr. Evil start last week, to be honest. That's just me.
All right, let's start with the team that is on the back page of the paper in Melbourne just about every day. We start with the Collingwood Footy Club. And Sam, let's have a look at this. This is the players that Collingwood are actually missing. DeGoey, Howe, Greenwood, Hoskin Elliott, Langdon, Pendlebury, Quaynor, of course, with that shin, and Treloar. That's a lot of players out. They only beat Adelaide, but they're on the same amount of wins as Richmond are. So are people sleeping on the Pies?
Yeah, I think they are, Seb. And throw Darcy Moore into that as well. They're essentially missing their best 2 defenders, their best 2 midfielders. This is from the game against Adelaide, and 2 of their best 4 forwards. So there's not many teams that can go away from home. Granted, Adelaide haven't won a game, I know, and they looked okay in the first half. But I think that all you need to do in this season is just keep the wins going. Now, Collingwood have had some off-field issues. They've had injury issues. they've had their their coach and their senior assistant coach playing tennis. I mean, it's been the season from hell if you could have planned it like anything like that. But the point is, they're still in the mix, Treaders. And I just reckon it's that sort of year that if you can get some momentum in the back end of the home and away season, I'm absolutely not writing off the Pies yet.
Oh, I agree with you. Why? Because look at that list. DeGoey will come back. How won't?
DeGoey.
Greenwood, DeGoey. I gave him a new name. That's what you merged. And I was going to say Greenwood, Hoskett, Elliott. But DeGoey, he's a star to come back in. Pendlebury, they're taking the slow recovery. Treloar was effectively managed. You talk about all those other players more. Nathan Buckley was clearly managing his squad like you would against the team that hasn't won a game this year, and they end up doubling their score. So I look at the way they go, their best team. Right, and admittedly, Howe won't come back, but their best team is as good as anyone. They're just got to get their form right, and I suspect with an older list and a team that's been challenging the last couple of years, and particularly this year, I think they'll trajectory like Richmond, albeit I think they'll probably be a month behind in their performance.
All right, they beat the Crows last night, 24 points at the Adelaide Oval. Treaders, I'm going to put this on you. Adelaide's run home looks like this. Carlton, Geelong, GWS, Hawthorn, Richmond and the Western Bulldogs as our South Australian panel member. Will Adelaide win a game this season?
No, I don't think they will. Their best chance, I think, against Carlton and Hawthorn. And the problem Adelaide's facing is they can't play 4 quarters of footy at the moment. They played really well for a half last night. The week before against Melbourne, they played a half. So their periods of competitiveness are quite good, but they can't do it for a full match. So I think if Carlton and Hawthorn are off the boil and Adelaide click for one reason, that's their best chance. But I think if I had to put my house on it, I don't think they will.
I like it. Definitive. All right, let's move on to the fixture. And Patrick Dangerfield, I like the way he's comfortable playing with the media, and he wields a big stick these days as AFL Players Association president. In 2018, he said that 22 games was too much, but he also said if you're going to wind it back, you need to look at the length of the quarters. So that's maybe he's out because it appears like yesterday he backflipped on that and said we should be looking at a season that's 27 games possibly, albeit with the 16-minute quarters. Treaders, when you were a player, would you have preferred a different system to 22 matches?
I think the ideal would be if we get to 34. So we play everyone twice, but that's not going to happen, let's face it. Realistically, do we need pre-season comps? As a player, it was great to prepare, but nowadays, as I evolved when I played, we started from road running to then sprint training to then game ball movement training. So you're effectively having 3 games a week, whether it's a quarter, a half, or 4 quarter terms. So the players are better prepared heading into round 1 game-wise than they used to be. It was almost like you got fit, then you got game fit. Now they're game fit when they start. I would suggest the best way to do it is add 3 or 4 rounds potentially, and then whack it on the start. You start it at pre-season time, and then you go through, and then you even look at whether you have bundles of games here and there for next year. So I really think you have your normal finals, but the pre-season comps are fast. No one really tries. Let's do what we're doing now, and we're seeing with Nathan Buckley, with Collingwood, they're managing their squads. Young players are getting opportunities like that never before because of the turnaround in games. I'd love to see that evolve into next year.
Treaders, just before we go to Sam, if you were to add an extra couple of rounds, would you want to see quarters return to 20 minutes?
Yes. Yeah, well, it used to be what? It was 22, wasn't it, to 16? Maybe meet somewhere in the middle. Or just go back to full time and go, okay, manage your squad appropriately. Got 40 players, and by all reports, the salary cap from the players may not change and the list sizes may not change. The footy departments are getting hit, absolutely, but you've got enough players there. It's up to you to manage your list, and that's exactly what a team like Collingwood's doing right now.
Sam, your view, and what do you think is likely to happen in this space? Does the AFL have an appetite for change?
I mean, it all comes down to money, really. In the end, is the cynical but realistic view. I think ultimately clubs like the idea of playing everyone once and having a 17-game season. And I think most clubs are with Treaders that the pre-season comp doesn't need to be an official one. You can organise scratch matches. But again, it comes down to, okay, if you're reducing a season from 22 games to 17, and then you're taking away the pre-season games that Fox like to broadcast, well, what's the new TV deal going to be worth to Fox, to 7, to 9, to Amazon, to Netflix? How much money are they going to be willing to spend? Because ultimately, that then 60% of that money goes on to what the players are earning, what the clubs are able to spend in their footy departments. The man behind the scenes making a lot of the calls at the moment, Brad Scott, former North Melbourne coach, working out what to do with list sizes. What do we do with the pre-season competition? What do we do with youth pathways? All of these have a flow-on effect. So I'm not sure we know the answer now. I think the AFL, if they could guarantee a similar amount of money, would go to a 17-game season plus finals. I just think it means every game is worth just that little bit more, and it makes the fixture easier from year to year. If one team faces West Coast in West Coast one year, the next year they face them in Melbourne, it becomes relatively simple.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hey, just in one sentence, guys, how have you found, start with you, Tredders, how have you found having a game of footy every night?
I love it, simply because whether it's your team or not, you've got something to watch.
Sammy?
I don't. I liked it at the start. Now it's just starting to wear on me a little bit. And by the way, it seems like it's wearing on some of the players. You know, like St Kilda only had a day and a half less rest than Geelong, but it looked like they had 5 days less rest. They were in cement boots. I don't mind Thursday night footy. I don't mind Monday night footy. I don't really want to have footy 7 nights a week. I just think it dilutes the product ever so slightly. But it's been a great change for us here in Victoria, Seb, because let's be honest, what on earth else are we doing?
No, exactly right. Well, let's move on to a bit of social media. Before we get to the social club, Sammy, Mitch Robinson from Brisbane began a bit of a debate, just sort of saying, and I think quite reasonably, that AFL players do not give a stuff if they stuffed up your multi-bet over the weekend. You do see a lot of people tweeting things like, by missing that goal, Charlie Dixon's ruined my multi. And I thought Josh Bruce from the Dogs had an interesting response to you, Sam. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it was the Collingwood Ward stuff really last week had a big impact on me personally, just to hear him on radio talking about, so obviously the free kick with McKernan, I think he admitted himself he made more of it than he should have. The death threats that he got from Essendon supporters, the messages, about him and his football and his family and his kids, I think it's just despicable. And then, so I sort of tweeted that, this is the impact that you can have when you send your messages in the peak of a fit of anger while watching the TV. You might have had a couple of beers. This is the impact that you're actually having. And then the response, so from Josh on Twitter, which we'll put up here, about what he's been getting, the messages per week, the delete all button, getting a good workout. And then, messages and calls from other players about what they receive. I mean, it's a game of footy, isn't it? It's just the fact that people think it's vaguely okay to send these sort of messages. And the hardest thing for me to accept is that, a lot of people would say, oh, well, these guys are just keyboard warriors. They're hiding behind pseudonyms. That's some of them. Others it's their real profile. You click on them and they're holding babies and they're taking their kids to parks and they've got real estate jobs. And, they're real people in the community that are saying these things. And I think we need to get to a point in the industry where we need to call these people out, because I disagree with the fact that, we shouldn't be concentrating on them because we're giving them what we want. No, we're not. If we publicise these people's names and what state they're from, and, these guys have jobs and people start knowing you wrote that to Warren Tredrea or whatever it is, people will stop doing it. We need to find a solution, because something bad is going to happen for us to actually stand up and listen to this.
Well said. All right, social club time, where we recognise exceptional pieces of social media. And Sam, it doesn't get more exceptional than when a piece of social media features our panellist, the Port Adelaide Premiership champion, Warren Tredrea, who put together, for an Adelaide radio station, put together this over the last few days.
I'm never going to be a good AFL footballer. Look over there! 2004 acting premiership captain Warren Gary Tredrea.
Hell, distributing gloves everywhere. That's
You've lost it, Treaders. You've absolutely lost it. You have. And
I'll argue.
That's.
I'll argue. I never had it.
Oh,
And I'd like to apologise.
Yeah,
That
okay.
was a sponsor of Port Adelaide, who is also an employee of mine, 5AA, and that was for their sister station Nova. And they're celebrating wonderful moments of Port Adelaide's history. When they asked me to do it, I thought they might be talking about the premiership, but no, it was doing a stupid glove celebration, which has got way too much airtime, and particularly on this show that we do. So I will say that, but I will raise you.
Yeah.
Seb, what were you doing with Warnie's fragrance?
Oh, no.
Yeah, good point.
No,
Good point. I saw this. This is cringeworthy.
Yes, this did happen.
Not
This is
awful.
disgusting.
It's not social media floggery. This is me genuinely wanting to give my followers an idea of a product that's worth purchasing. It's a
My
fine
followers.
fragrance.
Followers. Oh, boy.
It's a fine fragrance, smells just like Warnie, and I think it was really good. And thank you, Shane, for picking up the tweet.
How does Warnie smell?
You said he smelled like cigarettes.
I did not. Oh, hey, whoa! It smells like bergamot and cinnamon. It's wonderful. It's a good fragrance.
Send Treader some. He looks like he needs something to reinvigorate his life,
do.
given the colours that we're seeing constantly wearing. It's either greys or blacks or that awful brown that you've got today,
Hey, mate,
Byron.
it's great that you're positive, boys, but I can go outside.
The old outside card. He's played the outside card.
Do we go outside now?
You know, Seb, what the
We can go for a walk.
Coming.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like the old. Yeah, well, you never played the game. It's like, well, as soon as they say that, you know that they've lost the argument.
I wasn't going to say that, but it's true.
Yeah, no, that's true. Anyway, got anyone about the greatest Australian who was ever born? Before we move on, can we do a little bit of sure things for this week? Run the leaderboard. I actually don't know how this has happened, but I'm still leading. Well worth just soaking that in. Treaders, have you got a sure thing for this week?
Yes, Giants over Swannies.
I like it. Sam, as I madly reach for the fixture, what have you got this week?
Brisbane will beat North Melbourne.
And am I still allowed to go for the Bombers tonight over the Suns? Because I reckon Essendon will be B-I-T back in town, underline.
Yeah, but that's technically last round. Don't we?
No, Traders, let him do it. They'll lose anyway. Let him do it.
No, the new rule is you got to pick them 2 weeks in a row.
There's no chance of Bombers tonight, so I'm happy with that.
Dear me. All right. Well, first of all, to the greatest spin bowler who ever lived, Shane Warne, thanks for joining us. And to the
No worries. Oh, sorry, wrong one.
No, you're pretty good. Four-time All-Australian and Port Adelaide Premiership champion, Warren Tredrea, thank you.
Bowling, Sam.
Thank you very much. And the award-winning chief football reporter for the Nine Network, Sam McClure, thank you.
It's been a strange episode. See you, boys.
See you next week for Triple S and Talk of the Town.
Oh, no.